Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel Biodiversity and Conservation. I am Subhalakshmi Raut from Ambika Prasad Research Foundation, India, and today we are going to talk about research process. So let's start. So process consists of series of actions that are required to effectively carry out a research, and we have majorly 7 steps here, where we have to in the first step we have to define a research problem. In second stage we have to review the literature, all the concepts and theories about the problem, based on the problem. Then in third step we have to formulate a hypothesis. In fourth step we have to design research on the basis of our formulated hypothesis. Then in fifth step, we have to collect data about the problem. Then in the sixth step, we have to analyze the data that we have collected previously. And in the last step, seventh step, we have to interpret and report the data in the form of thesis or normal report. So this is the research process in brief, and we are going to study stepwise. So in the previous chart, we studied the research process in brief through the 7 steps, but actually the activities of research cannot be contained within those 7 steps. We have a long 11-step procedure that is required to carry out a good research. So let's start. So within this, the first step is formulating the research problem. So here we have to study about the problem on which we want to do research. So here the 2 steps involved in formulating the research is actually understanding the problem thoroughly and then giving the problem some meaning so that we can um, study it from an analytical point of view. And the best way of understanding any problem is to discuss with those problems with the people who are facing these issues. Like if we are studying about any medical problem, so we should consult with either patients and doctors. So they will give us all the required data on the problem. So next is extensive literature survey. So here, after we find the problem, we have to do some research, online research, to write down a summary on the problem. So for that we can take the help of academic journals, some conference proceedings or government reports, or some abstracting and indexing journals, or published or unpublished journals can help. And a good library will be a great help for the researcher. So next is developing the hypothesis. So here, after extensive survey, we have to develop a strategy or um, working hypothesis where we want to show a way to solve the problem. So it is a tentative assumption on which we are going to work, and a hypothesis actually should be very specific and limited to the piece of research in hand. And the role of hypothesis actually is to guide the researcher um, making him limit the area of research and keeping him on the right track. And it also indicates that on the basis of the hypothesis, what type of techniques we are going to use to fulfill our research, like what type of data is required, what type of methods of data analysis is required. So by discussing these problems with uh, our colleagues or experts, we can get uh, an idea about the working thesis. And after also examination of data and records available, we can get an idea about the working hypothesis. So next is preparing the research design. So after developing a hypothesis, we have to design the research in a way that will help us to um, go near the solution easily. And the preparation should be done in such a way that we can get large amount of data in a small time frame and using very little resources. That we would be a good research design. And those can be possible through exploration, description, and diagnosis and experimentation. So and the means of obtaining the information, the availability and skill of the researcher, and the selected means which um, are taken up by the researcher to obtain the information, and the time available for the research, and the cost factor. These all play a very important role in preparing a research design. Now, next is determining sample design. So, all the items under consideration in any field of inquiry is called a population, and the complete enumeration of all the items in the population is called census inquiry. But we cannot study a big population or a full population, so we have to take a small sample of the population. A small unit of this population is called a sample. So a sample design is a plan where we determine before any data is collected from the given population, means uh, which type of data we require, that type of sample we will choose. Now, sample designing is of various ways, and samples that are collected can be probability samples or non-probability samples. That means that probability means we know the outcome or the result of that sample, and in non-probability case we totally don't know about uh, the sample outcome. It may be wholly random outcome. So that are about sample design. So next is collecting the data. This is the most crucial part of any research process. If we don't collect the adequate data, we cannot get the result, and we will not get to our solutions. So there are various ways to collect data, that may be through observation or through personal interviews or telephone interviews or through preparing questionnaires or through preparing schedules. So these are some of the methods that the researcher selects to get the adequate data from the people those are getting interviewed or are getting questionnaires mailed. Now next is execution of the project, and this is a very important step in research process, because if the execution is not done correctly, the data will not be collected properly. So to collect the data in a systematic manner and in time, the researcher should execute the project perfectly. Now, he or she has to arrange the interviews or prepare the questionnaire such that he or she will get all the details in one survey only. So these are some of the ways to execute a project. Next is analysis of data. So after getting all the data, it should be analyzed properly. So the analysis requires several related operations such as establishment of categories and then application of these categories to raw data through coding, tabulation, or then drawing out statistical inferences. So here first coding is done, then means the data categories of data are interpreted into symbols, then that are tabulated, and then they are counted, or we use statistical operations to draw out some conclusions. Next is hypothesis testing. So after analyzing the data, the researcher has to test the hypothesis, and hypothesis testing will give us the result either we can accept or reject. So various tests like chi-square test, t-test, f-test, these are all used for hypothesis testing. And next is generalizations and interpretations. So here if a hypothesis is tested and several times and the conclusion is the same, then we can form a theory basis on the basis of the results or the hypothesis testing. And the real value of the research actually lies in the ability to arrive to a certain generalization or theory. So this is the crucial part of the research process. And the last part is the preparation of the report or thesis. So here finally the researcher has to prepare the report, and there are some requirements like the layout of the report should have preliminary pages, main text, and end matter. And in the preliminary pages, it should have a title, some acknowledgements, foreword, and table of contents, followed by a list of tables, lists of graphs and charts. And in the main text of the report, it should have introduction, summary of findings, main report, and conclusion. And at the end of the report, it should enlist all the technical data, bibliography, or any published research or report of the researcher. Next, the report should be written in a concise and objective style, in simple language, and charts and illustrations in the main report should be used only if they present the information more clearly, and the calculated confidence limits must be mentioned, and the various constraints experienced in conducting research operations may as well be stated here. So all this has to be taken care while preparing a report or a thesis. So this is all from me today. Thank you.